All right, guys. Not giving me my chat. Give me a second. Good morning, Eric. Just to let everybody know on YouTube, I'm sorry, everybody on TikTok, we are no longer broadcasting. Yeah, connection problems on TikTok. I'm letting everybody know on TikTok that we're no longer broadcasting on TikTok Live. We're now on YouTube. Go to my bio, click the link, go down to the bottom of the page. You can find the link to the YouTube where you can actually see everything we're doing. You can't see anything on TikTok. You can only hear me. So you're not getting the full presentation. If you want to see the full presentation, we're going to show you how to trade economic events. We're going to give you current events. We're going to analyze the markets. We're going to do everything. If I keep having issues, I'm going to disconnect from TikTok. All right. So once again, if you want to see the presentation for today, go to my bio, go down to the bottom of the page. You can get the link for the YouTube channel. All right, let's do this, guys. So let's go over a couple of current events before we go into the economic events. All right, TikTok got one more time to disconnect. TikTok is giving me internet issues, guys. So last chance, I'm going to be disconnecting from TikTok. Click the link in my bio, go down to the bottom of the page and find the YouTube. I'm not going to stay on TikTok. There's a bad connection. My connection is fine on Zoom. My connection is fine on YouTube. It's only TikTok. So if you want to see the full presentation in today's classroom, go to YouTube. Click the link in my bio, go down to the bottom of the page and find the YouTube link. I want to thank everybody for showing up. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I am not going to play with that all day. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for your patience. All right, so let's hit a couple of articles before we go into the economic events. This one is talking about everybody is skeptical about the S&P 500s. This is kind of what I was talking about, is that when the markets don't match up, the Dow Jones, didn't reach new highs. The Nasdaq didn't reach new highs, so it's everybody's just really iffy. And here's what you'll notice. What it says here. I hope you guys can see this. Let me make sure I'm sharing everything. Now let me share. So everything is about correlating, right? Everything is about correlating. So if you really want to see how a market is doing, you want to be able to correlate it with another market. And I've told you plenty of times that I always correlate the US markets with the foreign markets, right? You want to look at the DAX in Germany. You want to look at the FTSE in the UK. You want to look at the Hang Seng. I think I said that right. If not, but yeah, there are indexes all over the world that are equivalent to the Dow Jones, the S&P. So you can see how they're performing. and then compare that to the US market. So Michael Hartnett with the Bank of America, he's doing that correlation. And he's noticing that the European and Chinese markets are outperforming. They're outperforming the US markets. And let me kind of tell you why. Because a lot of people still don't understand that Trump putting the tariffs in place does not immediately affect the foreign markets. Let me say it again. The tariffs that Trump is putting in place to try to leverage the other countries, the immediate effect is on US markets and corporations. We're the ones having to deal with the tariffs, which is why it doesn't make sense. There are other economic tools. There are other economic strategies that you can use. I'm trying to think of the one. Sanctions. Has anybody ever heard of sanctions?
Yeah, I haven't heard that in a while.
I know sanctions was a big thing that governments was used because basically sanctions is we're going to cut you off. And the US is a huge exporter of oil, exporter of food. We're a big exporter of a lot of things that some countries need. So sanctions is what we used to use to kind of find leverage with certain governments. And the sanctions affects the other governments because we have so many connections that they cannot do it back to us, right? So if we put sanctions on another country, and I'm trying to think a resource, well, we supply oil. Let's say we supply oil to like Israel, or try to think of some other place, because you do understand that the Middle East is not going to give oil to Israel. Never that gonna happen. So there are certain countries that we give oil to, right? That just that they don't have it. They're net importers. So if we were to try to put sanctions, I'm trying to think of somebody else, like Australia. Australia needs Australia trades with Canada and Japan, right? Those are one of the two places that Australia, and I think even there's some African countries that Australia trades with, because Australia is, what I should say, the whole oceanic area. So the Polynesian Isles, New Zealand, all of that. They all have limited resources. There's deserts out there. They don't have enough. There's a lot of stuff that Australia just does not have resources that are available on their continent. So they have to go to other continents to trade with. Well, if the U.S., just for example, let's say the U.S. was trading with New Zealand, and they needed, now let's say Australia and all those places. Well, obviously it's an island, so they probably have a lot of fish, right? They have a lot of seafood, and I'm just going to give this as an example. Let's say that there's a lot of seafood that Australia and New Zealand kind of export to everybody else, but they need oil, they need water, they need other food like cattle or whatever. Well, they have a lot of cattle, but whatever it is, let's say there's something that they need. Well, the U.S. can say sanctions on Australia. We're going to cut you off on all these resources, and then if Australia said, well, we're going to cut you off on fish, the U.S. is like, well, we can get fish from somebody else. You see how that works? So we have so many, and I've showed you this. I've showed you the visual on this when it comes to the network of trade agreements. The U.S. has so many trade agreements with thousands of different trade agreements that we can put sanctions on a government, and then if they try to retaliate, we can just get that resource somewhere else. But Australia needs us to give them that, because they can't go someplace else and get the same quantity, or at the rate that we're willing to give it to them. If they try to go someplace else like OPEC is going to overcharge them, or they're going to limit the amount they're going to give them. So these are all the nuances of the geopolitics and the trade agreements. So US using sanctions was key because those sanctions directly affect that government. And they were heavily using this with the Middle East in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And in certain South American countries like Venezuela, Argentina, sanctions was the place to go. But the tariffs directly affect US corporations. And I don't understand the reason behind it. Obviously, you got economists that are explaining this to him. So you have to question what is his real motive for doing it. Is he trying to drive up the US economy? I'm trying to figure out the reason behind using tariffs. It affects the US corporations. So getting back to this statement, the other countries are outperforming. Now keep in mind there's still a causal sequence where eventually the tariffs may kind of go down the line in the domino effect. It will eventually get to those countries through the natural order of the trade agreements, but it's not going to initially affect them. It's going to affect U.S. corporations. And then now, as the U.S. corporations are reallocating or readjusting their profits and their expenses, then those decisions are going to do the domino effect into other governments as they reprice everything on charging those governments. Do you see how that works? The other governments are gonna feel the effect on the restructuring and repricing and reallocation. But initially, it's only affecting US corporations, US industries, US markets. So that's why our market is so volatile and unpredictable, and other markets around the world are outperforming. Hope this makes sense. Did everybody understand that? Do I need to re-explain it?
Understood.
Perfect. So let's go through like a couple more of these articles before we go into the economic events. I want to make sure I leave room for the challenge. Now it's saying here that Nvidia is down before the results. We know the results is coming out. Is today Wednesday? The results are coming out. Well, Tuesday. The results are coming out tomorrow evening, and I'm not going to get into it. I've already explained this to my students on Zoom. You guys already know what the institutions are going to do. When these events come up, we at this point you should be able to read the markets before a major event comes out. So we know why the Nvidia markets are down. We know why. I've explained it to you dozens of times inside of this classroom. All right? But this just confirms that it's going exactly how we expect. This is just kind of echoing what I talk about the tariffs, the T virus. It's a prey on everybody's minds. Everybody's making these decisions, good or bad. And I just need you guys to keep that in the forefront of your minds, that no matter how accurate that I'm teaching you how to analyze the markets with complete accuracy. But you still have that hump. You still got that contingency on the T virus that's affecting everybody's emotions and sentiment. They're speculating, we're predicting, and there's a major difference between the two. It's nothing but noise, and we're trying to find signals amongst the noise, which is why it can be very difficult in today's in the climate of today's. Now, I'm going to post this article in the student room where it kind of lets you know the importance of Nvidia's earnings. I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now because I don't have time to go over it, but I do want you guys to kind of go over this in your leisure. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and go into the economic event. We're going to be looking for consumer confidence. I think I'm going to go ahead and bring up the cheat sheet, which I don't need to do. Like we went over this already, right? We went over this already, but I do want to just stay consistent. I haven't used the workbook in a while, so this will kind of be good for those that are not a part of the course, right? So let's go ahead and go. And I really should be bringing up the King Cheetah. Let's do that one instead. Give me a second. All right, here we go. Let's use the Cheetah Cub. Perfect. So we'll go ahead and share this. Now, this is just a recap, guys. And it's a recap in two different ways. Number one, I told you that if you're going through the proper schedule and the routine that you're learning inside of the course and inside of the workbook, I'm teaching you that you should be able to do this 7 days in advance, 14 days in advance. These are all scheduled events. And you have the benefit of being able to schedule your trades. So you should have already, a week ago, you should have already added this to your trading calendar, right? We talked about that in the challenge that you should have a trading event schedule. You should have already added that to your schedule, and you should have already determined, if you're going to trade or not. There's a grading system. Those of you that have the crossbow and the sniper AI, you have that grading system where you can choose, if you want to trade, if not, if you want to hold on to it for more information. And if you have not seen that yet, or if you don't remember it, go and type in grading or something like that. And it'll take you to that section of the workbook. But I gave you this nice custom grading system on choosing your trades. All right. So you have all of that. So you should have already went through that entire process. So when I come in here and I go and I do this day before or the same pre-market morning, I'm just kind of recapping what you should have already done a week ago or a few days ago. The second thing is we already researched or we already traded or reviewed the consumer, I'm sorry, the producer price index and the consumer price index. And I've explained in detail that the consumer confidence and all three of those are directly connected. It's the same metrics. So if you look up the producer price index 2 weeks ago and the consumer confidence 2 weeks ago, then when we did look that up, I already told you that when the consumer confidence shows itself, we already know it's the same metrics. Now, because it was 2 weeks ago, we do have to make sure that the information is still valid. And that is what we're doing. Let me say it for you one more time. We already looked up this information 2 weeks ago when we analyzed the producer price index and the consumer price index. So we have an idea of what the markets are going to do. And we also know the sentiment of how the markets are going to react. We already know the X factor. If you know what that means, there is a keyword in your work material that I call the X factor. That when you go out to the articles, there's a word that you're looking for, the X factor. So we know all of that at this point. We know the organic information. We can guarantee the causal sequence. We know the X factor as we go to the news to see what the analysts are telling us. So all we're doing is confirming that that is still in place 2 weeks later. So here's our cheat sheet directly from the workbook. And for those of you that are new to this, if you want to be a part of this, I give you a cheat sheet where you can come into this with no knowledge, no education, no experience. Every one of my courses has the opportunity cheat sheet where I give you all of the information you need to analyze any economic event. Well, not any, the major ones, the ones that will move the markets. So we're going to go and find all of the consumer confidence reports. That's what's coming out today at 10 o'clock. So let's find all of the consumer confidence. Here's one right here on the quantitative easing, which means there should be another one up here on the quantitative tightening. Give me a second. Did I pass one up? Okay. So here's one here for the consumer confidence under quantitative easing.
Is anybody else
Here's,
getting that staticky sound?
y'all let me know. I'm not having a problem.
No,
Yeah.
Um,
no.
so like I always say, exit the room and come back. See if that fixes the problem. So there's another consumer confidence under create money, right? And then if you go to quantitative tightening, there should be another one. Yeah,
Hear me?
there's another one. Are you okay?
Is anybody getting that staticky sound? Or was that on my end?
I think it's on your end because you're breaking up actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on your end.
So just exit and try to come back in. You may even have to like reset your internet or even reboot your computer because it seems like it's an internet issue. All right, so we have the third one here under stimulate economic growth. So that's 3. We have another one here under destroy money, lower economic growth, right? So that's 4. And then when you go down to the oil, let's see if there's another one under oil. It may not. Here's one under oil where there's a decrease in oil prices. So we know how this works. Let's go through it very quickly. I want to try to get this done within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so we can go into the challenge. So let's go through each one of these. We're going to start at the top, and we know how this works. Every single metric has to work. If there's one metric that doesn't match, that doesn't exist, it is a dead road. We're looking for open roads, right? So let's go back to the beginning. Let's see. Now, I want to reiterate, we've already looked this up. We already know what it is. We just want to double confirm. All right, so here's one here. Quantitative easing, increase in interest rates, false. We've had a decrease in interest rate twice, so this is a dead road, right? So that's dead. Let's go to the next one. Create money, consumers will spend more. So I have not had any articles on the Fed focusing on like printing more money. They usually will, like if that is their monetary policy, you're going to hear, and let me kind of qualify. The Fed will either choose to lower and raise interest rates, or they will print or destroy money. And they will let you know that that is their focus and that is the decision they're making. But we have noticed that they're focused more so on the raising and lowering of interest rates. There is no major plan to print and destroy money. And believe me, they will let you know if that is what their policy is factoring in. Now the printing and destroying of money happens every day. But when they mention it, specifically mention it at one of their meetings or in one of their papers or any of that, that means that it is a concentrated focus. They're going bigger than just a daily printing and destroying of money. They're going to do it so extreme to affect the markets. But we have not heard anything like that from the Fed or any of the other central banks. Everybody right now is focusing on the monetary policy of raising interest rates and lowering interest rates. So this is also a dead road. Number 3, we have the quantitative tightening. So let's go through each one of these. Lower interest rates, that is true. Check that off. We've seen the Fed lower interest rates for the last few months. That is going to incentivize borrowing money. And we know that this is it, guys. This is the one that we've been using for several months. We know, we've already checked the markets, that the borrowing of money has increased. People are using more of their credit cards. People are using more of their loans to buy cars and houses. So we know that that is also a check mark. And we've also checked the housing market and the car market. Now, I am going to check the housing market because we just got through with the housing indicators that have shown that there is now a decrease in housing. So let me double check that.
Yeah, that market is so manipulative as far as the reports are concerned, because they
I
have a
know.
lot of online features versus human to human, and so they get that data through two, different means naturally, like all the other ones. So I'm glad we're looking at this.
Yeah. So and keep this in mind that we're talking about whatever metrics that we've gotten over the past 2 months. We don't know if that is factored into the markets yet. So let me try to explain. If right now we have tariffs going in place, if right now we have a strained relationship with Canada, because I did tell you that the majority of our lumber comes from Canada. So if we have a strained relationship with Canada where they're cutting us off on limiting how much lumber we can get, that's going to affect the housing market. We might be having an issue with a certain level of metals, like we talked about this steel and aluminum. We were having an issue with that. So that's also going to affect the construction market and the housing market. But is that already built into those markets? Is the housing market already being affected by the lower materials or supply of those raw materials? So that's what we're doing. We're trying to see if that is already factored in. Is that already hitting the housing market and the construction market? See right here, this is February 3rd. It says construction and home costs could rise. Could rise. That lets us know that it's not yet. It may not yet be in. Right? So right now, as we're looking at the consumer confidence, are they factoring this in? Or is this going to affect next month's housing, construction, confidence? Now, here's another thing, because labor also factors into construction, because we know a lot of that labor right here, deportation. We also know that the immigrants are the ones that are the majority of the ones building those houses, building those construction, the high rises. So with the deportation or the fear of the deportation, there's a lot of people that don't want to show up to the job sites. So is all of these different things affecting housing? Now, keep in mind, we're not talking about housing, but in our cheat sheet, it's a part of the domino effect. It's a part of the causal sequence. See, 4 days ago, enormous fear, housing industry braces for Trump tariffs, the T virus. So here is my take, because right now we're talking about consumer confidence, and consumer confidence is sentiment. Sentiment is emotion, and that is what fear is. So from my analysis, I'm saying that consumer confidence is going to be low. But let's make sure. I don't want to just say that off of this. This is just one metric. Because that information at least lets us know that people are not out there buying houses. And we have to assume that they're doing that for the houses. They're most likely doing that for the cars, because the same metals, the aluminum, the steel, those are the same things used to make the cars. And I don't know how many of the car manufacturers are using immigrants. I find that most of the car manufacturers are using U.S. workers, because they're unionized, and with their union, they don't really let immigrants in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the same way with port workers as well.
Exactly. So because they're unionized, they're not just going to let immigrants come in. So those are mostly U.S. workers. So once again, even though the cars may not be affected by the immigrants, they're still affected by the interest rates, and they're still affected by the steel and aluminum that we're having a shortage on. So either way, the actual big purchases of the houses and cars are not in place. So I'm going to say that this is a dead road. Now, keep in mind, that's the reason why we do this, because 2 weeks ago, this was valid. 2 weeks ago, we were able to analyze the CPI and the PPI based on these metrics. But in 2 weeks, the T virus has changed this. So we're gonna go ahead and call this dead. And this has been active for more than 3 months. We've been using this for more than 3 months as we analyze these economic events. But with the T virus coming in, that's now a dead road. And then once again, stimulates economic growth. It's not stimulating economic growth. Right? So that's not it. Let's go ahead and find another one. We got here destroy money. Once again, that is not the Fed's economic policy. That's not the Fed's economic policy. They're not destroying money, and consumers are not spending more. Well, I'm sorry, the lower economic growth. Now, the lower economic growth is in place, but it's not based on destroying of money. So this is also a dead road. And I kind of already know where this is going, so just give me a second. I already know where this is going. So here's the final metric of oil, decrease in prices. So let's go and look up oil prices. I kind of already know where this is going to go, but let's go through the full range, and then I'll explain it. So oil prices decrease. (2025). The U.S. Energy Information Administration forecasts that Brent crude oil prices will decrease to 74 barrels. I just got to get a date on the article. And I think it's here, January 21st. That's a month ago. I wouldn't go by this. This is over a month ago. I would not go by this. So let's find something more current.
So how far back should we go?
When it comes to oil, you want to know the current of oil. So first off, you start off by getting the current. So you want your news article to be somewhere within the last 7 days or the last 30 days. And then you can go and look at the range of where it built. But you want to find something within 7 days or 30 days first. And going back out to January, that may not be it anymore. Oil is moving. And I even showed you guys the markets on oil. Oil moves a lot right now because even the tariffs are affecting that as well. So let's see if we can find an article that's a little bit more current. Good question. Good question, though. All right, so right here, 1 day ago, oil falls. Economic Middle East. Now keep in mind, this is not, we're going to try to find another one because this is more so OPEC. Oil prices fall 0.3% to 74.24 amid weak U.S. economic data. So yeah, this is U.S. economic data. So yeah, this is the WTI. So yeah, this is letting us know that U.S. oil has failed. So let's go back and look at the cheat sheet. So lower oil prices, check. Now we want to see if the oil prices have increased consumer discretionary income. And right there, we already know it's false. People are not going out because oil prices are low. Now we're going to go look it up. Let's go and see if the discretionary money is consumer spending increasing. Is economic consumption increasing? We're going to look up discretionary spending and economic consumption. Let's look at it. Let me put it, I put it in 2025, right? All right. Give me a second. Let's find something current. 6 days ago. Let's try this. February 14th. All right, that's current. See if there's anything else. 5 days ago, we did that. A week ago, I think we did that. So let's look at these articles. Optimistic assumptions. See right there, I don't like that. I don't like that word. Assumptions? No, sir.
Coach, we can't see the screen.
You can't see the article?
We're looking at the document, the cheat sheet.
Thank you, guys. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do the whole computer so when I do switch, you guys be able to see it. All right, so I don't like the article that says assumptions because that's another word for speculation. Optimistic assumption. No, 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 no. I don't like that. So we can get rid of that. I don't like that at all. All right, what are key milestones and decisions affecting U.S. defense spending? See, I don't like this either. Defense spending, I don't want that. Nope, nope, nope. Let's keep going. Looking for something current. And I may have to put in different keywords to give me better results. Natural resources and agricultural discretionary spending. Let's try this. 7 days ago. See, I don't like this also. Proposals. I want to find something that's currently in place. Nope, nope, nope. And do you see the subtlety of this, guys? That if you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to read that article. Oh, yeah, this is right. You got to be able to pick up on those words. Requests, speculation, assumption, budget. All of these are what if, could be. We don't want anything like that. We want current implementation. All right, so I don't see anything here, so we're going to try to put something else in. Let's put increase. We're looking for an increase in 2025. Let's see if that works. In 2025, non-defense discretionary spending is projected. See, I don't like that word either. We're not looking for projections. We want to know what's actually happening. So let me let you know right now what the inevitable conclusion, which I already knew. Here's the inevitable conclusion. And this typically never happens, right? But it's still a teachable moment. It's still a teachable moment because there are going to be times when you go through every single road and none of them work out. None of them work out. Every road is dead. So, pop quiz. What happens if none of the roads are open?
If none of the roads are good, you can't trade it, correct?
You got it, my friend. Don't force it. Don't think you can go by 2 weeks ago. I know it's so close, but we've already proven that the metrics 2 weeks ago are not the same. They're not factoring in the T virus. They're not factoring in any of the shortage because of the trade agreements are kind of being either renegotiated or on pause. And this is another teachable moment about how important the geopolitics is. And this, and I do tell you that the geopolitics is kind of advanced, but you can see right now how you can very easily be thrust into that advanced area. You don't have to know all the details. And that's the reason why I like the causal sequence. Because what do I tell you? All you got to do is find the first few dominoes and the last one. You don't have to know the complicated things in the middle. That's the beautiful part about the causal sequence. We can look at what's happening between Canada and the US. They said there's a pause on the tariffs for 30 days. But we also have listened to what Canada has said. They're gonna block this, they're gonna do that. So, and we see the same thing on the side of Mexico. They're kind of doing the same thing. So it's just not a healthy trade agreement when it used to be the most powerful. All right. So with that said, basically, I wouldn't, and I'm not going to trade the consumer confidence. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Because I can easily go to the news and find the X factor. But that's jumping ahead because we don't have anything to compare to that X factor. We know what they're looking at. We know how they're speculating, but we don't know the real to be able to know the fake. We don't know if it's noise because we don't know the signal. Make sense? And that's what most people are doing. Most people are not looking at anything, or if they cannot figure it out on their own, their next default, because they want to trade it, well, I'll just listen to the news. I can't find the right answer, so these experts know what they're talking about. And that's what gets you in trouble. All right? Watch, wonder, wait until you don't have to wonder anymore. Stay in your circle of competence. Do not trade if you're not sure. If it's not a guaranteed trade, you don't want it. All right. So teachable moment. Good time, guys. We're gonna go into we got economic events all this week. So even though we weren't able to trade the consumer confidence, we have like 3 more events this week. We'll go into that tomorrow as well. So now let's go ahead and go into our challenge. Any questions on this on Zoom or on YouTube, guys, let me know. All right. And this also echoes what I was saying about the T virus. It is affecting everything. You can't even determine what's real, what signals are. 2 weeks ago, we had a clear understanding of what the consumer confidence was. And people are so engrossed in speculating on what tariffs are going to do in the future that we can't even lock in the signal.
Hey, Coach, I was reading an article a couple of days ago that came out. Well, it actually came out about a month ago, about January 22nd was this article, but it says, how much of a factor do you think this is playing? The topic is political tensions driving data sovereignty push versus tariffs. Do you think both of those are playing a huge component in the smoke and mirrors we're dealing with now?
All right, so I'm assuming the data sovereignty is who owns what, like who owns the data, like who owns what. So I would have to say, and all you gotta do is look at the metrics, look at the optics. That's a better word. So let's walk you through it. At Trump's inauguration, who was sitting front row?
With all the tech guys when he was in the inauguration, was it Elon or I
Elon
know it
was
was
there. Elon was there. There were 3 others.
Bezos.
Bezos and Zuckerberg.
Bezos was there. Zuckerberg was there, and I think um, Oracle's Oracle CEO was there. But they were all front row center, and they control the data. They're the ones that
Yeah,
have the clout.
that's the first time I've ever seen it in an inauguration with that many tech.
You got it.
It seems like he's got Elon like this big dog, and he like America's just walking around the planet amongst all of the other nations with this big AI tech dog. I don't think any president now coming out in any country can go without one now. As far as it's kind of like an ambassador, if you will.
Well, and I'm going to give you the equivalent, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers when I give the actual correlation. But the the reason why you say it was the first time it ever happened is because if you look at anybody previously, the number one issue that the citizens, the voters have is the connection that the president could have with big corporations. That was always a bad thing. And usually the platform was, oh, we're not a part of the big corporations. We're going to do this with the big corporation. We're going to shut them down. We're not going to let them blah, 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 blah. Did you see that? Did Trump ever say that in one of his campaign promises?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Just the opposite. He embraced it, letting us know that's his platform. He is going to take care of the millionaires and billionaires. Every decision, we're going to make you guys more money. We're going to save you on taxes, blah, blah, blah. So, let me give the other thing. Because I'm going to, and to be honest with you, unless you're my age, you're not even going to know what it means. You ready for it? Zuckerberg is big boss man. If you know, you know.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that.
So, let me say that, see if I can say it without saying it. Okay, let's try this. Because I don't.
Spider-Man reference?
No.
Huh.
Now, have you guys ever seen the wrestler Big Boss Man from WWF back in 20 years ago?
Yeah.
So, what was his job? With the baton?
There's another big boss man too.
Disruption.
Oh,
he
he
had a
was.
he had a
Yeah.
baton. So that lets you know right there what his job was. Who has a baton like that with the bar coming sideways?
Some type of royalty or king or something.
No, it's like a defensive baton when you're fighting against people. He the uniform, he had a badge on.
The riot
Oh,
gear, riot gear. Yeah.
I remember Big Boss Man.
So who was Big Boss Man? I gotta walk you through this because it's so fun.
Crowd control.
If he had a badge on with a uniform on with a baton and a crew cut, who was Big Boss Man?
Was Big Boss Man the police?
A version of the police. There's a secondary police after the police arrest you.
Corrections?
Correctional officer. So I'm going to walk you through it step by step. The correctional officer is a person inside the prison, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. So now, who was because now keep in mind, we know that if we know the law on basically there was a law on slavery, right? And now slavery is legal as long as you're a criminal. So who was the original big boss man if you go back to the 1800s?
Are you talking about a certain ethnicity?
Are you talking about the sheriffs?
Okay. So sheriff, the police are a version of the
Okay,
group that I'm
so
talking about back in the 1800s.
so the overseer.
Overseer.
Yeah, I knew it was one of the two you were doing.
There was somebody that kept the slaves in line. The overseer on the plantation with the whip.
So he's gonna make certain individuals changing their name to Toby.
No, but he owns and controls all the data. And what I'm trying to tell you is there's different types of slaves in the U.S. You have the criminal slaves with that whole thing, but a lot of people don't realize that every single person is a slave. All of us, 100%. Every race, creed, nationality, religion, I don't care what it is. Every single person in this country is a version of a slave. And if you don't believe me, because I remember 15 years ago, I walked into a room and they were having a discussion, and I came in late. And I came in and inserted myself in that conversation. I says, well, do you guys know that all of you are slaves? Everybody was just, no, you don't. And they were cursing me out. and I'm going to prove it to you right now, that every single person is a slave. And here's the first question I ask. I say, how much money do you make on your paycheck? Well, I make about $2,000. Oh, really? You make 2,000? I took a census. Some people made 3,000, 5,000. Okay, no problem. How much is your rent? Oh, that's about 1,200. How much is your car payment? Oh, that's another 500. All right, give me the rest of your. You paid this, you paid this, you paid this. So you work every single week to pay for your house, your car, and everything else. You're a slave to all of those things because you don't own your home. You don't own your car. You're paying off the credit. You're a slave to the credit market. You're a slave to your home. You're a slave to your car because they allow you to buy it on credit. The credit system is a slavery system because if you go back to the Jewish system, wasn't it a slavery system? Credit is a slavery system. You're an indebted servant. Indebted servitude. Does it make sense now? Because our entire system is credit based. Fiat currency is credit based. It's not backed
Yeah,
by. Go ahead.
being in the industry, I've had that discussions with certain. I've had Sharia law discussions regarding that, so I understand what you're talking about.
Unless you are liquid, unless you own your home, own your car outright, you're liquid. You're not paying those bills. Unless you're that, you're a slave. Because the majority of you, and I'll give you even one, even the people that say, "Oh yeah, man, I own my house, I own my car, I own this, I own that." What about FICA? I'm sorry, you're paying FICA. You're still a slave to the government. The tax system is another version of slavery.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is as long as someone can always come and take your property, do
You
you
got
ever
it.
really own it?
You don't own it, and as long as they can take a portion of your money, you are a slave. So that is who Zuckerberg is because he owns all the data. Now, I'm really gonna blow your mind because there's somebody else trying to take over as the big boss man. Who's that? Who's trying to get control of our data?
Oh, that's obviously Elon.
What makes that guy dangerous is he's got a lot more infrastructure, and he's at NASA. That's what's really. I think that trumps what Zuckerberg is doing. This guy's got NASA ties, so he's
Massive.
yeah. I think he's like under the cell, under the jail, controlling, pulling things, while Zuckerberg is up top, walking around. He's under the
Uh-huh.
cell,
Well,
changing, the people into different body parts or some type of
well,
weird stuff like that. But he
I'll
controls it.
I'll put it to you like this. If Zuckerberg is big boss man, he's out there in the fields with the whip, giving away your data, tracking you down, because that's really what it was. It really wasn't about, the discipline. It was the fear of the discipline. And that's why I say big boss man, because if you look at the prison system, there are thousands of prisoners being guarded by a handful of people. So they don't have enough people to manage all those people. So it's the fear of the discipline. Does that make sense? They have to keep those people in line for the fear of it. And then when you do get out of line, the big boss man goes and hunts you down, tracks you down, and brings you back into the slave system. And if you don't know that, if you don't realize that that's what TikTok was, that's exactly what it was. We were all runaway slaves. And the big boss man shut down all the runaway slaves, and now he's trying to bring them back to the plantation. Is light bulbs going off?
Yeah, now it's going off because it explains why a lot of countries are starting to have these AI discussions because the AI is suddenly a key to get the shackles off. So other countries or other populations can't just come in there from, like we can't go and travel to China with our social media mindset and the AI that allows it. So I think the AI, from what I'm gathering from what you're saying, and you're going to qualify it naturally, that a lot of these countries that are meeting amongst the guys of AI is that type of control, and Zuckerberg is a key figure in being able to control that. And so I think Trump is kind of parading around that, hey, we already got this on lock.
Yep.
But please go
So
ahead.
and then something that you just said is something that I've been echoing about the AI for the last few weeks. AI is the great equalizer. Exactly what you just said. AI is attempting, because our data, so we can literally choose where we want, and we saw that too when we went to Red Note. We get to choose who we give our data to. And that's what the AI is, because we know that AI is taking our data when we put in all our questions and our situations and our work product. We're putting all our information into the AI for them to solve our problems. And that data is being used like everybody else. So we get to choose who we give our data to. And I told you there's eventually going to be, and I would love to create a nonprofit where I start creating that database of the AI, all the AIs around the world. I would love to create a repository of every single AI that's being built out of that open source of DeepSeek. But AI is going to be the great equalizer that we choose who we give our data to. So Elon, I'm sorry, Zuckerberg is on a short leash. Like, his days are numbered. He will not be able to be big boss man for much longer. Now, let me qualify this, because if Elon Musk is the big boss man out there, spreading the fear, bringing people back into the plantation, then Elon Musk is trying to be the warden. That's why he's in the government. He's not trying to do it through his corporations. He's trying to be the warden. Make sense?
It sounds like going
Absolutely.
through the government is actually a lot quicker.
You got it. And we see him. He's plugging into all these organizations trying to get our data. And you have to understand how Elon Musk and his Lex Luthor mind works. He doesn't need, people think that he's in there actually looking at the data. No, he's looking at the coding. He's looking at the APIs where he can now plug into them. That man's not looking at our data individually. He's trying to see how the system works, how he can change it, where he can plug in his technology into the government's technology. I hope,
U.S. sovereignty AI made by Musk.
and I'm gonna give you a secret about the secret session if anybody took it. If you looked at what I told you about Thailand, there's an event in Nvidia in Thailand that's coming out in March next month, and they call it. It's a data center that they're installing. I think it might be, if it's not Malaysia, no, it is Thailand. Thailand is installing a data center where they're actually calling it sovereign AI. The Stargate program, sovereign AI. You're going to start seeing the governments have their own AI outside of the corporations. I'm pretty sure China has their version of a sovereign AI. That's what the Stargate program is. It gives the government, because they don't want to be dependent on the corporations. So if all these corporations are building the AI, every single government is going to have an AI as well. They're called sovereign AI. And that goes back to the original question, who's in charge of the data? Sovereign, sovereign, sovereign. If you hear the word sovereign, that means the government. Sovereign AIs. So I'm giving you all the pieces, guys. Hopefully there's a lot of red lights that went off. Oh, that's why. Oh, I can connect this. Oh, okay, that's why he's doing that. Good discussion. Did we learn a lot? All right. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
got it? Okay. So, there was a takeaway that I wanted to do on that. Let me see if I can remember what it was, because we talked about a lot and I skipped over something. Um, it'll hit me. There was another point to be made, but we covered the majority of it where we saw the connecting of all the dots. But there was one more thing. If it hits me, I'll talk about it before we get off. But let's go ahead and it's hitting 9 o'clock. So let's go ahead and go over the challenge, guys, real quick. I already told you guys how I'm going to do it inside of the student room and the master classroom. So just bear with me where I'm falling behind. I apologize, but I'm going to post those videos and those tasks. And then you guys can just go over it between now and Sunday. Sunday is the end of the 30-day challenge, right? So I'm gonna give you. We're gonna go through all the education this week. I'm gonna give you videos and articles and worksheets all this week, and just kind of work through it. Work through it, little by little at your leisure. We're going to be going into simulation next month, starting on Monday. So you're going to have a lot more time. You can catch up. I promise you, you'll be able to catch up. So even if you extend with the videos and all the tasks for the 30 days, don't worry. Because I'm not going to be posting these kind of articles, these kind of videos every single day. I'm going to be posting every day, but it's not going to be this difficult. I'll show it to you when we get closer, probably on Friday. I'll show you what the new format's going to be going into the 60-day simulation. All right, so or 30-day simulation. So let's go ahead and go through today's challenge. Make sure that I'm recording. Yeah, I'm recording, and I make sure that I have this up. Can you guys see the image, the slide?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so let me go through real quick, make sure everything's in place. All right, you guys already know this. We're going over the prime correlation, but I feel like I'm missing one. I think I skipped over one. Oh my goodness, Sarah. I thought I had one. Oh no. I got rid of it. Because it didn't fit in the 30 days. I was trying to have a separate day and slide for just prime correlation by itself. I wasn't able to do it because keep in mind, first off, February is 28 days. That's the first thing. But because the weekend, because we have that Saturday and Sunday, that's 29 and 30. So it's a brilliant thing that we got the weekend so we can actually have 30 days. But I did have an extra day to dedicate to the prime correlation by itself. So I'm kind of building the prime correlation into the other presentations this week. All right, so let's do this. We are now on day 23. We know that for the past 3 or 4 days, we've been focused on our trading education. And this is going to set the foundation for everything that we're going to do as we go into the masterclass. The 30-day simulation, and then finally the 30-day execution. All right, so we've already established that you guys have to have a basic understanding of financial literacy, a basic understanding of economics, and then we introduced something pivotal yesterday, which is the causal sequence. And you're going to start seeing that every single presentation, every single assignment moving forward, we're going to be introducing that causal sequence. But right now, we're going to be introducing something just as important. So bear with me. Let's first quote our billionaire. All right, we've been going through this for 22 days. We already know the format. We quote the billionaire trader to make sure that the advice that's being given is the best advice we can have. The billionaires have already used this. They've already found success with it. So why would we reinvent the wheel and try something outside of this? So Bill Ackman is the billionaire we're going to quote. Billionaire hedge fund CEO. And here's his advice about trading education. He says the best investors are those who are always learning. And I've said this before, your learning never ends. Your mastery is never a final destination. It is a continued journey. So with that understanding in mind, now let's go through our daily assignment. And here is where we're introducing a new fresh concept that you are going to anchor every single thing. You're going to anchor your education. you're going to anchor your progression and development, and you're going to anchor your analysis too. And that is something called the prime correlation. You cannot learn this anywhere else but in this community and in my curriculum. So today's assignment is to learn the prime correlation of oil. What is the prime correlation? It's the relationship between the dollar and the oil. So today we're going to introduce the oil portion of that prime correlation, and tomorrow we'll introduce the dollar portion of that prime correlation, right? So here's the daily assignment. The stock market is controlled by two global commodities, crude oil and the US dollar. The relationship between these two assets is a custom analysis called the prime correlation. You can trace their connection to anything in the global economy, and it will help you find clarity on finding value and supply and demand. We're going to get into this a little bit later, but always, every single form of analysis, the final outcome should be finding value, asset value, intrinsic value, tangible value, market value. And then the second thing, the final outcome should be supply and demand. And that is what you're going to use the prime correlation for, primarily. Let's find value, let's find supply and demand. And then even from there, you can still use the causal sequence that we introduced yesterday to go into industry, sector, corporations, supply chains, and even the global economy itself, right? So let's recap. The daily assignment is to learn the oil proportion of the prime correlation. So step one, you want to learn the global dominance of the crude oil. And we're going to show you that by introducing a quote by billionaire oil magnate John D. Rockefeller. He is the person that monopolized the oil at the very beginning. So his words should have a lot of weight because he literally controlled all of the oil. And you would think that he only controlled U.S. oil, but because of the causal sequence and the global connections that he had, at some point he controlled everything, global oil. And that's going to make sense with the quote that he says. He says, the control of oil is the control of the economy. Its production dictates the pace of industrial progress. Let's say it for you again so we can lock it in. The control of oil is the control of the economy. Its production dictates the pace of industrial progress. And this was back in the 1800s when he made this quote. How much more so and how much more powerful is this quote in today's economy? Everything around the world, and we're going to go into that in today, every single thing is connected to oil, the oil production. And as Rockefeller said, it is connected to the pace of industrial progress. So I'm gonna give videos and articles inside the masterclass room for the students where you guys can see this control of the economy and the industry. Step two, we want to learn the world's strongest commodity. All right, crude oil is the king commodity of them all. Since oil and gas are used to transport every single consumer product around the world, you can follow the oil production, follow the oil refinements, follow the oil reserves, and follow the oil prices. And it will give you a full perspective on the supply and demand of oil, as well as how it will impact revenue, growth, and value. And this is just kind of expanding on the quote from John D. Rockefeller. You're trying to see the pace of the industry. You're trying to see how the oil is affecting the economy. So let's say it for you again. You want to look at oil production, oil refinement, oil reserves, and oil prices to get a full picture of how oil is affecting everything. And then that's gonna eventually show you either revenue, growth, and value in any industry, any sector, any corporation, any supply chain. Step three, you want to learn the oil refinement process, because I just mentioned the oil transportation, right? You're using that oil to transport every single product around the world. So if oil prices go up or oil production goes up, it's going to automatically affect the price of that product. It's going to affect the ability to ship that product, to make sure that product gets to the next stage of the production process, the next stage of delivering in the trade agreements or delivering to the consumer. But now, step 3, we also have to look at the oil refinement. So crude oil goes through a thorough refinement process. Now, pause here because I need to explain this for a second. Back in the day, when they did oil refinement, there was a lot of leftover gook and leftover like raw materials that they couldn't do anything with. They didn't know what to do with. So you had smog, all of the gases are going up into the air, creating all this pollution. And you can still see that pollution in New England area. You can go to Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Jersey, New York, and there's a heavy smog over California, right? It's 30, 40 years later, that pollution is just starting to dissipate. But they just let the gases go up in the sky because they didn't know what to do with it. They had all this leftover gook that they would bury either in the water, the rivers, the lakes, the oceans, or they would bury it in the ground, and it would just cause nothing but environmental issues. They don't do that anymore. They have progressed that production process so refined to such perfection that there is nothing left over. Every single raw material or gook or byproduct that's left over, they're able to use it as an ingredient for another product. And now, between that level of detailed refinement process, there are over 6,000 products and raw materials that can be created. These byproducts are used as ingredients and parts for millions, if not billions, of products, making oil the primary source for global production as well as the transportation. So once again, I'm going to have some articles and videos that's going to show you that refinement process, showing you that the power of oil is not just transportation. Transportation is 60%. The refinement process is the other 40. So even if we go out and find another source of transportation, we're still anchored to the raw materials that are being provided through the refinement process. All right. Step 4, we want to learn the causal sequence of the crude oil. So to understand causal sequence of oil, you must know what the first and last domino of the sequence is. The first domino of oil, pay attention. The first domino is always oil production. Because any other decision, any other thing in that domino chain is going to start with the production. How much oil do we have? Oil production is the first domino. The last domino, which I've always told you, what is the final destination of any analysis? Supply and demand. So if we know what the first domino is and the last domino is, we can predict anything. We know what the inevitable conclusion is. Another important factor is that oil is always the first domino of every other asset, production, economic, financial event. So anything that you're analyzing, anything that you're looking at, any event, any asset, any stock price, whatever it is, I promise you, I guarantee you, the very first domino in that sequence, you can trace it back to oil. That's how powerful it is. That's why we use it as our primary source of analysis. So let's give you the secret. The secret to the power of crude oil. Since crude oil is connected to the production of every consumer product on the planet, it has the power to control costs, supply and demand, and the final consumer price. The secret is to watch the oil production, refinement, reserves, and price. And with that, you can predict what's going to happen anywhere. Any industry, sector, corporation, economy, supply chain, corporate earnings, market value, anything. And you'll be able to do it well in advance. I hope you see the power of this. You cannot learn this anywhere else. This prime correlation is exclusive to my curriculum. And I'm going to show you how to use it step by step. Tomorrow, we're going to go over the second part of the dollar and see how powerful that is as well in comparison to the dollar. I hope you guys are learning a lot. Stay on pace, guys. We're almost done. This is the last week of the 30-day challenge. I want to commend you guys for sticking to it, staying focused. Do we have any questions on this? All right, guys. We're going to leave it there. Tomorrow, we're going to go into another economic event. We have the NVIDIA announcement in the evening. All of you that have taken the secret session yesterday, you already have more information on how to trade it. I will be reviewing it tomorrow morning. And if you guys still want to try to work out trading it Thursday morning, then we'll see how that goes. But just be mindful of the T virus. It is affecting everything right now. All right, we'll talk more about that in the morning. If I don't see you guys in the student room, in the masterclass room, I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning around 7:15 a.m. All right, be safe. Don't lose money in the markets. I will see you guys in the morning. Thanks so much, guys.